Hello, all you wonderful folks out there. Welcome to the Into the Song podcast, a place where we spend some quality time with a songwriter discovering what makes their song tick. I'm Doug Harsh, your faithful host. Please join me as we go into the song. On today's podcast, I talk with Michael Harold Doty. Michael is a very prolific songwriter. On the week we recorded this podcast, he had released not just one, but two new recordings he completed during the first few weeks of the COVID shutdown. In fact, that's no coincidence, since the studio is one of the most important tools that Michael uses to create his songs. But enough of my yakking. Let's get into the song. Well, thank you so much for being a good sport and being a part of this. I'm really excited to talk to you about your song today.
Certainly. Sounds like fun. I miss the songwriter roundtable we used to go to.
I do too. And I was just thinking, every time I talk to somebody, I'm thinking like I usually have some kind of connection with them. And I was like, I think, Michael, I met at that songwriter roundtable. I don't think I'd ever met you before that, or to be honest.
No, I had seen you play live, but I don't think I had actually met you until the songwriter roundtable.
So that was like what, last spring, I want to say, when we kind of tried to kick that up.
That sounds right.
So about a year ago or so. I think we tried to get started around May, if I recall. I don't recall exactly, but yeah, and that was fun.
It was
fun. It was really fun.
It was. It's neat to connect with other songwriters in the area because you don't always realize there's so many songwriters in the area.
Almost coincidentally, I started this Michiana Songwriters page, and the idea was just to connect people, because about the only time that I'd ever met other songwriters was if on the odd occasion that there would be a songwriters night. Or perhaps at an open mic if somebody played their own songs and be like, hey, I hadn't heard that before. You must have wrote that, or. So I love this song that you sent to me, or they basically linked me to. And my first impression of it, and to be honest with you, it's definitely colored by your recording of it. Okay. But it has this feel of almost like an Americana song with like classic British touches, if that makes any sense.
Sure. I mean, one of my favorite bands in the world is the Kinks, and they've got Americana with British touches all over the place.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
That makes sense because I mean, I'm into a lot of, I like some Americana. And I'm a huge fan of especially 60s British pop. I've been a Beatles fan my whole life. Basically, that's what made me want to write songs. A lot of that British folk, British rock, I'm very much into that. And then it would make sense that it melds with Americana because I've always been a fan of kind of bluegrass stuff. Just because I love harmonies. Melodies and harmonies are really what turns me on about music. So, bluegrass and folk music and traditional Celtic music, stuff like that really kind of commingles in my songwriting a lot. So I don't see how I'm not taken by surprise that you would think it was Americana and British combined. So that's right up my alley.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, some of it's colored just by your approach to how you produce the song, how you kind of, from a sort of recording standpoint, how you arranged it, gives it those flavors. Like your doubled vocals, that feels like classic British.
Yep.
Stuff to me.
Absolutely. That's right out of the Beatles handbook right there. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the sound of the acoustics, I mean, really kind of gives it that sort of more you might think Americana down home vibe to me.
Hmm.
And even the looseness of the drumming, I guess, kind of goes both ways, for the Americana and the British classic British stuff. So,
Yeah, the drums
but yeah,
on this album are really weird. That song specifically, it was really strange how the drums came about. The drummer for my old band, Ceiling Star, uh, he offered to play some drums, but we're separated right now, and so I sent him an MP3 of a rough mix, and he played along while listening to it in headphones and recorded the drums with just his iPhone, and then sent me a text of the iPhone recording, and I mixed it into the song. So that's how we did the drums. That's why they're a little loosey goosey.
wow,
Yeah, I thought it sounded
that's
great for iPhone recording.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if was he using some sort of input device on
No,
his phone
no,
or
no,
just
nope,
straight
just the
up.
microphone on the iPhone. Just he just set it out,
That's fantastic.
set it out in the middle of the room and played the drum part.
Well, when you folks out there listening, listen to the song, that's an Easter egg for you to kind of
Yeah.
to think through. Yeah, I would have had no idea, literally would have had no idea that that's where those came from. But I love it even more now knowing
Yeah,
that.
you gotta do what you gotta do in these weird times.
You're so right about that. Well, yeah, love it. So tell me kind of how the song came about. I mean, what was sort of the genesis or the spark that kind of um, got you down the road towards where it ended up?
It's really weird because a lot of the songs, like what I was doing writing for the album, is I would take old ideas I had on my voice notes recordings where they were just like a guitar riff, or maybe I had a piece of a melody and not really any lyrics or anything. So I would choose a new song every single day and try to bring it to fruition. So I'd have to add changes, and I'd have to uh, take whatever piece of melody I had and come up with a theme to write about. This specific song, though, I just said one day, you know what, I'm just going to write a song today. And I didn't have anything set aside or anything. I just grabbed my guitar, and every once in a while, when I need to shoot myself into inspiration mode, I just say, hey, let's throw a capo on there and see what happens. So I put put the capo in one of my favorite positions with it, which is the 7th fret, because it really works well with my vocal range. For some reason, I've written a few songs using the 7th fret capo position, and I like the fact that it kind of almost sounds uh, mandolin-y. It sounds more like a mandolin because it's so high, but it's a good key range for me to sing in. So I just started playing, strumming around with some regular chord forms that I'm used to, and a melody popped out, and I said, yeah, I don't know what I want to write about. Um, so that line, put on your makeup and I'll take you out in the town, just like popped out of my brain. And you know what? I can do something with that. And so I basically just drew from all sorts of different things in relationships past. One specific relationship, just grabbed pieces of things that had happened within that relationship, and I just started filling in the blanks. And then I got to the end part, the middle eight, which is basically pasted onto the end. So it's not really a middle eight; it's like an end eight. Um, and for some reason, I all of a sudden I just started strumming these different chords. It just came to me right away, and so I mean that's kind of like how I approached the song. I just wrote it within, I don't know, probably a half hour. Took me to write the whole thing.
Wow, that's fantastic. Two things you said that really kind of stuck out to me is I think sometimes as songwriters, at least this is my experience, and let me know if it's yours as well, but all it takes is one spark, right?
Yeah,
So when you talking about the lyrics, it's like you said, put on your makeup and I'll take you on the town. And you like suddenly you had a starting point, you
yeah,
know?
uh-huh.
And sometimes that's all it takes is like a good starting point. And once you have that, you're like, I see all kind of ways to put hooks into that. Like what I mean is
Yeah, yeah,
hook on additional ideas,
yeah, yeah.
around
It-
that.
Absolutely. If I've got a focus, if I know basically in general what I'm going to be writing about on the song, then it's much easier for me to just come up with different roads to go down.
The second thing you mentioned earlier too that I wanted to kind of bring up was you call it the middle eight,
Yeah,
you call it a bridge, whatever. One of my first impressions too is like, hey, you hit the bridge, but then you didn't kind of do that chorus one more time at the end,
right,
like
right.
people do. And I like that. I love the
Yeah,
sort of place where you left it, because in the bridge you're saying I can't see why you'd ever want to leave.
yeah,
And yet when you end it sort of abruptly like that, it sort of implies that, well, maybe that is the case. Like, like
exactly.
there's
Yep.
this uncertainness
Art
that's
imitates life.
yeah, there's this uncertainness to it that's like, that's, I mean, that's a huge way to kind of, communicate emotion for people
Yeah, yeah.
is
I like
like
to, yeah,
confounding their expectations, you know?
yeah. Leaving stuff unresolved is a good tool in the songwriting playbook. The one thing is I'm not, I don't shy away from well-worn structures for songwriting because they're popular song structures for a reason. They work well. They have it's easy to tell a story within that framework. So I don't shy away from doing your standard songwriting structure, but I do love and get excited by doing things that aren't expected. Not that other people haven't done them before. It's not like I'm coming up with anything ridiculously original or anything, but it's my take on it. So I feel like it's relatively original. But the you know finishing a song like that in a slightly unexpected way, you kind of think it's going to go on. It just like I say, that's part of the story. Like uh, you some of the songs hopeful and some of the song is foreboding. It's like it has a little bit of um, what's the foreshadowing, and then you end the song, or I end the song, this one specifically, with a little bit of a. There's no real denouement. There's no closing. There's no closing resolution. There's like, oh,
It could go either way.
did did he take her out on the town, or did it not work out? I don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that, the nice thing about the fact that it's unresolved is it sort of mirrors life. I mean, a lot of us are living in that sort of unresolved place. And I'm not just talking about, this whole COVID mess or whatever,
Right.
but there's a lot of unresolved that happens in life that we have to deal with. And so I think it rings true for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I I know I don't think I know a single person that doesn't have unresolved things in their life. So
Yeah, it doesn't sound
such
much
is life.
like
C'est la vie.
doesn't yeah, exactly. Does not sound much like life if you didn't. Man, thank you so much for being a good sport and participating. Loved hearing about your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to talk to you, Doug.